So I was thinking about Joel Embiid and how we're having yet another offseason of him being injured, and how realistically, maybe probably we won't see MVP level Joel Embiid again. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I feel like that's the most likely outcome. And then something I already knew, but it really hit me. Joel Embiid is already 31 years old. Joel Embiid is 31. Giannis turns 31 in December, and Jokic turns 31 in February. Now, 30 is not old, but it does feel like that kind of snuck up on us that this generation is already in their 30s. And I don't want to make this a blame thing. I'm not even saying it's a problem thing, but it's definitely different. Because in any other era, someone like Giannis would have been this dominant figure and probably would have been like face of the league territory. It would have felt like their era. But we haven't been able to get there because we're still in the LeBron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant era. So it's never really gonna feel like the Giannis era. It's never really gonna feel like the Jokic era, even though he won 3 MVPs. Because by the time LeBron or Steph Curry retire, Jokic and Giannis are gonna be right behind them. They're gonna be a couple years later, they're probably gonna retire. And this is more so for the casual fan, but even a diehard fan can realize it. But if you ask a casual fan, they're still on Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant. That's still who they know. That's still who they resonate with. And part of me feels like, in a very weird way, the NBA will never be back to peak popularity until those guys are gone. I know that sounds backwards, and I'm not saying I want them to leave, but I think in order for the game to grow, in a weird way, it kind of needs them to open up that room to grow. You think there's like certain Hall of Fame careers going on that are kind of just going by, which of course has always been the case, right? But I think of someone like Donovan Mitchell, who quietly has made 6 straight All-Star games and is kind of an afterthought, was just on a 64-win team and is kind of an afterthought. Because there's not a lot of room, right? We got to talk about LeBron, we got to talk about Steph, we got to talk about KD, then we got to talk about Jokic and Giannis, then we got to talk about Shea and Anthony Edwards and Luka, right? But those top 3 guys still dominate so much of the media coverage that it's hard for other guys to break through. Someone like Anthony Edwards, I think, has broken through just, in terms of his play and personality. And he might have a chance to be face of the league in a way that Jokic or Giannis didn't. It seems like the next generation will have that luxury because, like I said, whenever LeBron and Steph and KD retire, Giannis and Jokic are right after them. So the next generation will have it, right? It'll be Shea, Luka, Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama, maybe Cooper Flag, maybe Cade Cunningham, right? Maybe Paolo, right? That generation will have it. Where all the guys in the middle, the Donovan Mitchells, the Devin Bookers, the Jason Tatums even, all had to play in the shadow of Steph Curry and LeBron, play in the NBA after 2016, right? And, once it gets to that peak of a level, it does have to come down. But I look at it very similar to what's going on in rap right now, where we have the quote-unquote big 3, right? Whether you like them or not. But in rap, everything revolves around them, and those guys have been at the top for so very long that it's hard for other, let's again say, Hall of Fame careers that are happening don't really get the notice they probably should. Someone like Jid, who was dropping amazing album after amazing album, is not touching the sales that he would if it wasn't under the shadow of this big 3. Think about it, and if you're not a rap fan, I'm sorry here, but for my rap fans, you probably understand me. Think about what someone would have to do to approach Drake, Kendrick, J. Cole levels. It's pretty much impossible because that's grandfathered in. That's the big 3. Until they move out the way, there's not going to be other superstars at that level, and that's what's happening in the NBA. Look at how great Jokic is. He's still not Steph or LeBron in terms of the national coverage or international coverage, right? And I feel like even in terms of rankings, it's hard to do with like Jokic and Giannis. Because I feel like if Giannis and Jokic came along right now, let's say their career started right now, you would have people argue that they are top 10 players of all time. And that would not be a crazy argument at all. But people don't really make that argument because we're still so close to Steph and LeBron. There's no one really out there saying that Giannis is better than KD all time. But if Giannis came along a little bit later, people would have that argument because that's just how it goes. And once again, I'm not blaming anybody, right? You could still play basketball, still make millions of dollars to play a game, keep doing it, right? You could still rap and make millions of dollars, keep doing it. I'm not telling these guys to retire. I'm just speaking on the reality of the situation. And the difference really isn't the length of how long these guys are playing. It's the fact that they're still all NBA level players, right? Because Tim Duncan played till he was 39. It's not like these guys didn't play for a very long time, but they weren't dominant at their old age. That's what makes it complicated. The year that Kobe and Tim Duncan retired, Steph and KD were 27. LeBron was 31, but LeBron also had the biggest moment of his career that year, coming back from down 3-1 against the greatest regular season team of all time. But that's a normal outline. They were 27 when the two greatest players from the previous generation retired. I don't know, maybe this is just my first time experiencing this as an adult NBA fan, but I feel like if you're between the age of 25 and 31, that era kind of didn't really get a fair shake of being in the spotlight, even though they did in a weird way. Like Tatum got a ring, very famous. Jokic, Giannis, very famous, MVP, championships, Joel Embiid, MVP, like, it's not like they're not talked about, it's not like they're not popular, but it's not their era, you know? And that's a big difference. And it's really not about those guys because history is gonna remember those guys for how great they were. But in the moment, I feel like they do deserve more coverage. But I think about the guys under them, right? And there's two guys that were really close on being those next superstars to cross over and really break through to that conversation, and that was Ja Morant and Zion Williamson. The hype that those guys had around them was actually reaching the casual fan. That's another thing with Giannis and Jokic, that they weren't highly regarded coming up, so even the beginning of their careers was kind of under the radar, you know, so it took a while for people to understand who they were. But Ja Morant and Zion, the hype around them was so high from the beginning that if they lived up to it, and they haven't for various reasons, but if those guys were top 10 players, I feel like they would have brought in a lot more casual fans to the game than even a Giannis or a Jokic. And I would say the rap comparison for this, and like a guy that was close to approaching that big three level, but, you know, had a quote unquote injury, I would say Chance the Rapper. If you guys remember the buzz around Chance the Rapper, acid rap, coloring book, the Apple deal, all that, he was everywhere, the 3 hat, and then he drops The Big Day and it was never the same, and now he's never going to approach that level of stardom again. Now maybe I shouldn't say never, and maybe you shouldn't say never with a Ja Morant or a Zion Williamson, but those guys had it. They had the NBA in their hands. They were lined up to be face of the league type of guys, and they fumbled it. But you guys let me know if I'm tripping. I just feel like the Devin Booker, Trae Youngs of the world, Donovan Mitchells of the world are getting kind of lost because we're still, again, talking about Steph, KD, Bron, but not only that, we're still talking about James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. And I am completely open to being wrong on this. Maybe I'm overthinking entirely. Maybe this is just the natural cycle. Maybe the NBA is deeper than it's ever been. That's probably another aspect of it. There's a lot more stars to go around, which means there's a lot less coverage to go around. Maybe that's the real answer here. But I still do genuinely believe that there's this cloud on it. A cloud sounds so negative, but like the umbrella, if you will, of Steph, LeBron, KD, that when those guys are gone, the NBA is going to be forced to make other faces of the NBA. Same way again with rap. When when Kendrick Lamar and Drake and J. Cole stop rapping, we're gonna be forced to pick other faces of the genre. But again, someone like Jid right now, how old do you think he is? He is 34 years old. And if you're watching this and you don't know who he is, go listen to his music. He is an amazing artist. But he's 34 years old. So that means when Kendrick or Drake or Cole stop rapping, if they ever stop rapping, Jid's gonna be like 40, and we're gonna be moved on to the next generation, and his crazy run will not be remembered in the way it should be. Same exact thing I'm saying in the NBA. When LeBron and Steph retire, Jokic is gonna be 34, 35 years old. we're not going to have any time to celebrate the Jokic era. We're going to be moved on to the Luka era or the Wemby era. And like I said earlier about how Jokic and Giannis playing in this era with Steph and LeBron and KD makes it more difficult. Same thing with like Ajid. No one will ever say he's better than Kendrick or better than Cole because it's too close. It's too close. If his career started right now, people would make that argument because the bodies of work are incredible. But you just wouldn't say that. Once again, I am speaking from the casual fan perspective. Not even maybe the perspective they might want to have, right? Because the casual fan probably just wants to see Steph and Bron. But when those guys are gone, there's gonna be no choice. If you care about basketball in the slightest, you're gonna have to find a new guy. You're gonna have to find a new player to root for. And as much as I will dread the day that I no longer get to watch Steph Curry play basketball, again, that's not something I want. Steph Curry is my second favorite player of all time. I would love for Steph Curry to keep playing. But I just do genuinely feel, maybe I'm wrong, let me know how I'm wrong, but I do genuinely believe the NBA will be in a better place when those guys are gone. Maybe not the first year, maybe not the second year, but we will start to move on. We will embrace different superstars. We will reset the culture. And I'm really not sure how you guys can disagree with some of the points, like especially Giannis, right? Jokic is kind of his own thing. He's like the Tim Duncan, really. If LeBron retired like a normal human being a couple years ago, Giannis would be the face of the NBA. Now, Giannis kind of didn't do himself any favors by losing in the first round, getting hurt, right? He can't control that, but some of it was on him. If he won more, maybe he would be that, right? Maybe that's what you can say. That would be a fair argument. But I feel like in any other era, Giannis would be that guy. But I believe there's nothing he could really do to eclipse that shadow of Steph and LeBron. Think about what he's done. He's a champion. He's a two-time MVP. He's a depoy. The last 7 years, he's averaging 29 points, 12 boards, 6 assists. The last 7. And this is not a conversation that I'm just bringing up out of the blue, right? We always hear this, the face of the league convo. We've been asking for 5 years, who's going to be the face of the league after LeBron and Steph retire? We didn't know that in 5 years they would still be all NBA level players. I don't know why I made this video. I made this video because I was thinking about Joel Embiid, but it really just made me think further about like, yeah, Joel Embiid's career might be over pretty soon, and that's going to be like, I don't want to say underappreciated, but like it just went by fast, right? It went by extremely fast. And Giannis is a different story. I'll make another video on Giannis soon because I feel like Giannis might be, his career is far from over, right? I feel like he can make a big jump still in terms of all-time ranking. But even him, like he's already 30, Jokic already 30. All that went by very, very fast. Again, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not telling Steph Curry and LeBron to retire. I'm just speaking about what's going on and why I think the popularity of the NBA is not what it once was. Some of that is just people being, attention elsewhere. That makes sense, right? But I also think like it's stale. It's stale in a real way to the casual fan, right? We're invested, right? But the casual fan doesn't really care about Shea in that way. And to be honest, they don't really care about Jokic and Giannis in that way, which is my point, right? When LeBron and Steph are gone, there's no choice. Either you care about it or you stop caring about basketball in general. And I think people will find their new people to root for. So again, I can't wait to watch Steph Curry and LeBron and KD play this year. I'm extremely excited. I can't wait for the next Kendrick album. J. Cole has been talking about the fall off for like 5 years now. Can't wait to hear what that sounds like. But I do think in order for the respective sports to grow, we got to move on. And, it's nobody's fault. It's nobody's fault. But that's what I believe. Let me know what you guys believe in the comments down below. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating where the NBA is in general right now. Like, of course, they're fine. Salaries going up. There's a lot of engagement from local markets. But generally, like those stars, we're not making the Stephs and LeBrons because they're still here, right? When they move on, we will make the next ones. When they move on, the casual fan will care about Shea in a way that they just can't bring their mind to care about when they're still rooting for Steph or LeBron. So hopefully I'm making sense. Hopefully I'm not offending anybody. It is what it is. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Please like, comment, subscribe. It will mean the world to me. We're almost at 11,000 subscribers. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm out. Peace.